So as you know, I am an FPS guy. I have to say it at least once every stream. I came from Halo. And I do enjoy it, but like also I just gravitated towards games with shooting. I've always stuck to sci-fi, which does guns more than bows and arrows. Mass Effect was the big RPG. I care about the FPS in Star Citizen, and to be quite honest, I've always felt like it's okay. It's fun. I enjoy it. I have a good time, but from the inventory to the interaction system to the balance of guns to the time to kill, it's always been a little bit of a mess. So Heimdelight, member of the community, posted this in the Spectrum forum, wanted to ask about FPS, and I thought we could read through this and talk a little bit about like what is actually missing from FPS, because they have been making some adjustments. The crosshair, they changed some time to kill stuff. They've made some interesting changes to injuries, but it still feels like the gunplay itself isn't snappy. It's not nice. You go and you watch a game that just came out like Marathon. It's not really that fair to compare yourself to Bungie making an FPS experience, but you want to see them kind of moving in that direction. So what Heimdelight had to say here was, hey everyone, for those unaware, I'm very into FPS in Star Citizen, and I am its biggest critic. But right now, I think FPS balance in Star Citizen is in a great spot. Zach Priest is doing a great job. Ask me anything about it. How much did Zach pay you, Heimdelight? Did he give you a free scope? I heard he's doing that. Yeah, dude, this is a big title. This is a big title to self-proclaim. I'd be interested in knowing that. Pre 4.0, I was skeptical. The direction with the longer TTK was concerning. Guns felt awkward to use, and there weren't many enjoyable options. Post 4.0, things have been amazing. We had medium TTK metas for Tweaker Mod Karna, Quartz, Prism, Pulverizer, P8SC Tweaker, Parallax, ATSCAV, and then the new attachments give viability to a plethora of guns such as the Coda Karna, S71, and more. Boom Tube Edition was also very welcome for anti-air gameplay, making pilots think twice before engaging ground troops. True diversity within the game. Can't wait to see what crafting brings to the table. Changes to armor and guns should make things interesting. Thanks for all the hard work you've put into the current state of the game, Zach. Many of us find FPS and Star Citizen to be extremely fun, except for the desync. And they ask, what's everyone's thoughts? First comment in chat, they need to shorten the death animations. You can shoot somebody and then run the whole Onyx facility and get back, and they will still be falling over dead. It's great. Elliot came on and asked, is he holding you hostage? Do you require assistance? To what I say, that's what people ask when people say that Siege of Orison was fun. There's just too many jokes to be made. No, honestly, I appreciate both of what these guys do for the game. I wish both of them, though, had more power to do the things that they want to do. Because you can tell they both, like, definitely Zach. I've talked to Zach, actually, about few FPS games. And people will be like, oh, everybody's super COD-brained. And you're like, no, a lot of these people are coming from, like, the same kind of simulation games that many folks want. Not the whole game to be like, but aspects from the game to be in. You know, games like DayZ, people talk a lot about, like, the inventory and how that works. Or how the AI in that game act as kind of like an alarm. Sort of like in Hunt Showdown. That's cool. Obviously, that gets balanced out by other people. But I do think that both Zach and Ellie... Bro, why are you posting pictures of yourself in the forums? Just what's going on here. That's what I think, man. I personally feel like Star Citizen has a really big problem around medical gameplay. That's just continuously getting kicked down the road. Like, there is an issue with the fact that everybody can basically do to themselves what a medic would have to fly 20,000 kilometers to do. And really the only thing that separates those two things is your ability to jab them with a little pen or blast them with a quick healing beam. Because like as soon as you're up as a character, unless you have to like climb a ladder and you've got like a tier 1 injury, you can't climb ladders, you can basically get back to your ship and fly yourself to a medical bed. So they've already got this problem forming with medical gameplay. And then you take into account that like combat has to give medical gameplay something to do. So they have to both make combat fun and make sense for the people who are holding the guns, but they also have to make combat lead to situations where medics would be needed. And it's hard, dude. Is there medical gameplay? Look, there is. It's just that mainly when we think of medic gameplay, we think of people who are actual medics waiting to get called out to go do medical stuff. The medical gameplay we have in game right now is being a medic in a squad on the front lines. That can make all the difference. Like, if you have a firefight between 5 people and one group has a medic and the other doesn't, the group with the medic will win. So there is tangible reason to have medical gameplay in the game. It's just all very combat oriented. There's no radiation, like in-depth radiation treatments. There are no sicknesses that cause debuffs. Even like crafting to create better potions. What do you call it in sci-fi? Anecdotes? You want to get better anecdotes to your friends. Yeah, like, I don't even know about surgery, but more complicated things to make sure injuries are working well. It's just lacking a lot. So then it's hard to go into the FPS combat conversation and talk about time to kill and how the flow should work, because I realize that there's so many knock-on effects there. That being said, FPS has definitely gotten better in my opinion. And I'm not even just talking about the easy bits. You know, Star Citizen, CitizenCon 2023. And they were talking about a lot of the improvements they wanted to make to FPS gameplay back then, which they haven't made some of them, but they have made quite a few. So like,
you'd be able to hear the audio as well. It's
there are things, for instance, that like wear and tear on our weapons still isn't in the game, right? That includes
on to some consequences.
Functionally from them like breaking.
Belching out smoke here because it's very worn, right?
It's also aesthetically our weapons aren't really wearing. That's not a ton when it comes to FPS. The more you fire your gun, but it does improve this situation. We also got the looting screen. I think this helped with FPS combat quite a bit. Some people don't like it, but it is much better, I think, for picking things up. We haven't gotten animated interactions. I don't think that's a big deal, though. Radiation came in, but again, I don't think that's added too much to strategy other than don't get radiated and carry a decon pen. Ladders have been nice. That was a good addition. Honestly, stealth gameplay and takedowns are...
We can do a more efficient takedown than maybe our skill level would have allowed. And it certainly looks a lot cooler.
And then FPS scanning, which is still missing. That's a big one that's still missing.
There's a risk here, okay? So there's a charge up time. Means you can't do it all the time. It's going to recharge slowly. You see the bar at the top slowly.
So all of these things were shown in 2023, about 3 years ago, and they're missing, which I think is also a hang up on the FPS gameplay situation. A lot of this would improve how FPS works. If not for seeing where players are, you could scan and see where things can be looted. It's just a nice thing to have in games. That being said, Zach did show us a lot of additions that have made it into the game.
Location of things.
New recoil, new sound effects,
and they're a lot more impactful, and we
new
can
attachments and sights,
in just
a new view down each weapon.
Cheers. New procedural animation over our ADS. So previously, as if you play right now, you basically have a linear pose-to-pose transition. And sure, it's there, but now we layered some of this procedural stuff on top. So for example, if you have an SMG, it can come up a lot quicker, it can flick up, you feel really cool. LMGs can be a lot more heavy. So before it basically just do, move from pose to pose, but now we can keep it longer down here, bring it up slowly, and overall it just...
So he's literally talking about weapons having different weights and moving differently, aim down sights, reloading, all that kind of stuff. We didn't have that before a lot of this. The FPS stuff has only just started getting better in the last year and a half.
They look really cool, but a lot of that detail can potentially get in the way sometimes. So you've seen, this is a change to the Kana, where we have raised the weapon sight and given what we call the target acquisition window more room to breathe. So if you're aiming at somebody, you can just generally see a lot more. So optics aren't a crutch anymore. And things you'd expect from having a scope in general. And it differs manufacturer to manufacturer, right? So some things are purely digital, some things are purely physical. So if you get hit by an EMP grenade, for example, we're using something like a television sight, like something like Cluey might have, then your optic would turn off. Right.
That's rough. And then there's also the backpack reloading that we've done, the ammo stacking. All of this is what he's talking about when he's mentioning the FPS stuff. These are the additions they've been making over the last couple of years.
Ammo in Star Citizen, you have to open a menu, put things on. It's a little bit clunky, it's a little bit awkward. So if you have magazines in your backpack, you will now be able to grab them at the price of a longer reload animation.
So all of it...
At one point.
All of it is kind of It's not that big of stuff on its own, but it adds up over time.
PvP, we want to increase the time to kill. This allows for more varied weapon balancing. You know, we can lay into like sort of different aspects of the element more. It leads to higher skill ceiling and less unfair deaths. It will no longer be a game of whoever shoots whoever first. Speaking of which, force reactions. We're reworking them. We're aware it's frustrating, and we are going to rework the system to work beautifully. And we're also working on some other highly requested PvP changes. I'm very happy to say a lot of this work has been dialed in. Squadron 42 is in a very good state, and we're bringing this to you soon. Now, over to...
That's such a common, this is working in Squadron, you guys will get it soon. Yeah, some of this stuff is not working the exact same way they show it here. For instance, this reload animation, I do not believe is the same.
Manufacturer, right?
And yeah, some of the scopes also don't do the magnification, I think, correctly like that. There's also this stuff, which was the AI changes. They actually talked about putting this into 4.5. I don't know if you guys remember, that was the first tech preview they did, was all the AI changes and stuff. I honestly couldn't tell you the AI is fighting any better than they did before. I'm not going to try and say that that's true in-game or not, but we can do some more in-depth tests of this a little bit later. I just wanted to come back to this and point out, just like when he talks about what the work that Zach has done, a lot of people will think about how the weapons feel when they're shooting, or how each one kind of hits, how quickly it kills, all that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that they talked about here that they were trying to do to improve the FPS experience, and I think they've done a decent amount. I still think there's plenty to be done in this game to make it feel better to actually shoot the gun and like be in a firefight. Maybe even reload the first time you try. But this is also, it's just nice to see the devs out here. They didn't really respond much other than posting pictures, but it did get some conversation started. Let's see what somebody else said. Captain Disarray said, personally, I think it's too arcade and TTK is too high. I don't think the higher TTK makes any difference tactically. If it does, it makes tactics less important because firefights generally need to be close range when there is no cover. Part of that is magic healing. There's virtually zero penalty for being shot to pieces and restoring your health gameplay-wise. Originally, it was supposed to properly impact movement, aim, and vision. All is open to balancing, but some suggestions would be med pens should only be able to be used once or twice at most and not be a cure-all. Injury that affects gameplay should remain with only revive and health boost. Medical guns should not be able to revive or restore health and only be able to heal injuries. Whoa. Full healing should require a med bed. This, he says, would make all ranged fights more of an option and so open up more tactical play while bringing some semblance of sanity and balance to revival and healing mechanics, also bringing more tactical elements. Movement speed needs to be reduced, at least sprinting, as every citizen is an Olympic sprinter with bionic lungs and impossible physiology that enables them to turn right angles at full sprint. It looks ridiculous. It plays ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, I agree with quite a bit of this. Something does need to be done to limit medical gameplay. And the problem that they seem to have is like, as soon as they take that ability away from the casual player will lose their mind. Star Citizen is so stupid. You can't heal yourself completely. I had to limp around because I didn't have work. What do you mean you're going to force me to wait for other players to come help me because I have an injury? That's what you're going to hear, right? So they need to get a method for NPCs to be able to accept those beacons and heal people as well. Just like they're talking about doing with refueling. If they can do that with healing, to the point where if you go down or you have these problems and you are limited by this stuff, an NPC will still pick up the slack in the next 60 to 120 seconds because there's no players around. I hope that happens, but we'll see. Thing is, even if FPS is getting better, it all is balanced on a scale that also includes medical gameplay. And CIG has a lot of work to do in both of those areas, I think, to make the game feel good for people who are getting more into combat, or even just into dangerous situations where you might go down. Either way, this is a long and wildly overextended talk about FPS gameplay in Star Citizen. Hope you got something out of it.